All right, welcome everybody to From Rock Bottom to Badass. And today I have my friend Himanish Goel. Is that I say it right?
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
Himanish Goel. Yep.
Okay, so tell the people, who are you?
Yeah. So my name is Himanish Goel. I recently graduated from VCU this year in August, and right now I'm working in the professional industry as a analyst. And I think the majority of my career has mostly been about academia. I'm just trying to learn the kinks of what does it take to be 21 and older. So I throughout my academic career, there have been some techniques that I've used to help me get through the journey of going from each step of the school zone. But yeah, that's a brief summary of who I am.
Awesome. So where are you from and like who are you as a person like outside of your academia?
So outside of academia, a lot of my interests would lie around. It was either some having to do something with like engineering, but mindsets, building something, whether it's like a Lego set or I one time built my own ukulele, but just kind of putting the pieces together. But
Oh,
I also really had this whenever there would be some type of advice or speech that was leveled at a level where you're learning from that person, whether it's like a commencement watching a speaker give their experience or trying to understand a specific tool. That was also something that I used to do outside, just trying to break gates of things. Like I remember they were, I don't know if it was a book, but there was this one tool that people said it was really hard to kind of frame the problem, but I was kind of willing to take the risk, even though I didn't have any sort of clue what it was, but just kind of like doing small steps and taking 5% over here, then going 5% over there, because that way you have at least like a broad idea. So
so I'm hearing that you love like engineering sort of things and like motivational and like self-development.
yeah, and I
Awesome.
mean, it's slowly changing, and I'm starting to get the bigger picture of it. But now I think ever that was something I saw when I was in middle school and high school, and then when college came, it started to continue. It just started to evolve after that when the pandemic hit. Because a lot of people were self-analyzing myself, and I was in that same boat.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's now the answers got a little bit more deepened. Now there's tools which I never thought about, which I never knew had those capabilities, which have now interested me outside of like the work that I do. There's now there's a fascination for cloud. There's a fascination for data visualization. How do you work with those? And also, how do you try to level the height of photographs through tools like Photoshop and Lightroom? So trying to tell a story, because everyone says the acronym that a photo is more than 1,000 words.
Yeah, for
Which
sure.
if you have a writing of it, that also helps to give a good description. So um, also absorbing my writing talent as well. So that's also another thing that's come into. A lot of new things have come into the pandemic. Now the only thing that I'm having to also learn at the same time is figure out what to juggle between personal and professional. Because if you put too much on one seesaw, the other one breaks. And if that breaks, then it becomes hard to like hit it back on the fulcrum, which it's a challenge. Like, just, I mean, you were just mentioning how just to get that course recording, it took so much time because of the amount of sea waves you've had to go through.
Okay, so in order to be on this podcast, you had to have identified with a recovery story or a rebirth journey of some sort. Can you tell us what that means to you and how that fits into your life?
So right now it's funny that I'm actually I'm right now trying to recover from previous experiences to kind of lead to, because how do I, the location of where I'm going to be working full time, from like the standard 8 to 5, is the location of where, one, it's the start to my dreams and goals, and second, it's to prepare for that. You need to know how to do it right. And there's so many factors, like in terms of, if you want to make the most out of it, you have to know, you have to get the fundamental basics in terms of being able to be a part of that zone. And that, so my location, it's in the New York City area. That's where I have to move in next year, Jan. So for that, I'm having to revisit areas where I'm having to make myself uncomfortable. So right now, I mean, I don't know how long this recovery story might go long, go as long it would, but the when you mentioned that, I had I think it started sometime around like middle of middle school, where around summer 7th and 8th grade, I was having to be a part of this, no, starting to learn the fundamentals of meditation, when I really wasn't, it wasn't something that, you know, I was not like going through panic attacks or anything like that. It was just a tool or skill set that my parents and my friends around me thought would be helpful just for something near down the future. You know, just a lot of the times we always find something accessible that we don't think might help us now, but it helps us 5 years down the lane. And that's what I was practicing those 2 years. And then all of a sudden, the journey to um, fitness took its toll in 9th grade. And I I had never gone so extreme because I was always a sports person. And when they were it was the high school was new. It had just opened. We were the first batch. Second, it was the fitness had ramped up to areas where I was doing strength training. I was doing all forms of covering HIIT, high intensity interval training, and other areas. And it might have been a bit too extreme, where the learning aspect really lagged a lot. So, you know, being a part of events, being in late night areas, kind of being that typical teenager zone where you kind of hit the boundaries. But, and I mean, obviously, I was always someone that never was drinking, or I kind of stayed away from all those activities. But just having to manage the um, the the physical capacity of just having to want more of it, because it's kind of, even fitness itself, even when you're not doing it, it's a huge addiction when you're not in a routine where you're on off days and on days. Because if you're doing it every day, it's all everyone thinks that, and this is applicable to everyone in life, that when everything's going well, there's no complaints. When everything goes down, they think they're stupid. It's because of them. They didn't know how to take the right decision. But it's fatal that it's going to happen with everyone. The ups and downs are necessary in order to help you grow out of that. And it took me some time to realize that, until I was in the second year of college, that no matter how hard I try, this will either fail or succeed, and it's dependent. There's already a huge timeline written for us, and some parts we can change and some we can't. And that entire high school was into just fitness, and whereas a lot of my other folks were learning other skill sets and finding their passions, it took me until end of 11th grade to kind of start absorbing that. What did I really enjoy? The building part, the kind of using the meditation to its secret ability. And there was an event that so as I got, one thing I didn't leave, I feel like, is like how would I describe it? It's kind of like I don't want to say like lucky leaf or golden bag, but it's kind of these two opportunities that I have, I feel like help change me and get out of that box and kind of figure out that there's more than this, there's more than that outside of this world. One was Continue with the Art of Living community, which is kind of it's like a nonprofit organization that focuses on meditation and yoga, and you can learn it, you can learn the concepts and stay within that area, or you can also help within the community. And I was pretty active from 8th to 10th grade, that eventually they started calling me to they started calling to me event they started calling me to events where I was helping them either with a mission, whether it was to implement these practices in schools in the around the area we lived in, or just helping other folks outside. Like I went to Atlanta, to Florida, and these were like, it wasn't like every day. So there'd be like a week I would go over there, and then 4 months after that we'd go somewhere else. So one of the trips where I had to actually, because I had won the hands-on experience and I was helping the community over there, that they allowed a high schooler to come to a college campus to take a Yes Plus course, which is for university students. And it was a new program that had started in the university, which I still don't know what location it is, but I know it was somewhere around September 2017 time frame. And over there, there was a, so I was the whole, it was kind of like a 3-week long summit. And within that summit, we were trying to, from the beginning, they put us in groups to see that how we could establish a foundation, and they wanted to see where we landed in the next 3 weeks. And we were paired in teams of 4. And the people I was paired with, one had really major disabilities, one who couldn't see, one who couldn't hear, and I think the third one was someone who had he had a major disability where a lot of the times when you can't handle stress to its extreme, they either start eating a lot of sweets, or they start, putting out on someone. But he would actually just like run out, like literally like run out miles just out of nowhere. And to bring him back was like another task. And, with me not having any, like, hearing of those, I knew about them, but I didn't have anything major as that much. So I try to, how some people try to highlight it that, oh, they try to bring it about when in like either a rude cause or something that's not as appropriate. I try to somehow make them feel like I was accepting it, and I was also trying to help and try to be a part of this journey for the next 3 weeks. But, when things like that happen, you have that type of disability, society tends to judge you because you don't have that specific ability to do things. You can't hear someone walking across the stage, or you can't see the world, and just like how everyone else can. They kept backing off for the first week and a half. No matter how hard I tried to kind of be a part of it, I think there was like thoughts of me probably just leaving, and because they didn't make any sense, because I was getting the meditation experience and I was staying at one of the coach's house and everything, but whenever I used to come, it didn't feel like I was gaining anything because a lot of it was group activity. And one of the professors who was hosting the summit and thought of starting this movement within the university for the students, said that the best thing you can do, since you've already paid for it. Well, I didn't pay. Well, that's a long story, but he said is observing the prey. He said, when you observe what they feel uncomfortable about, you'll start to notice what are the barriers that are making them lag behind. And every time we'd have like 10-15 minutes break within that within the orientation, within the summit, sorry, they were always uncomfortable about their presence even when they were not talking to anyone. So like, suppose there's like 50 people in the crowd, and there's some people who are talking in that crowd, and there's some who are just standing there listening or just not doing anything. They were those just going around, and no one was saying anything to them, nothing, but they were just walking. And it came to realization that one, they either didn't like themselves, or second, they, they just thought even when walking on, people had a problem when no one was saying nothing. And I kind of took the approach to that last week and a half to kind of show a different perspective to them, that you can only be your biggest and baddest judge, because your mind is kind of the critic that's also always playing tricks around you. And I think from there, they started to see a different person inside of me. And eventually, around the end of the summit, I never thought that we would ever exchange phone numbers, but we ended up exchanging phone numbers, ended up getting to know each other better, kind of helping them reach their journey, and they helping me trying to figure out me as a person. And from there, when we came up in front of everyone, they kind of presented that if I wasn't there, they probably wouldn't have learned the biggest lesson in life. And I think from that point, it kind of opened a branch of doors where I then started to find other things more interesting. I was being more compelling. So that that story led to me getting to VCU, where doing those problems where I was trying to figure out where I was all of a sudden going from fitness person to complete academic person, just constantly sitting there 8 hours a day, that now I'm experiencing those two timelines. I'm having to put them together, and the balancing part of it, that's what's like pulling two strings. So, yep.
That is deep. So you kind of gave me like not only your own personal journey with recovery, but how you've been able to witness other people walking through that same sort of pathway and utilize the information back and forth for both, right? Super awesome. Okay, so so your journey, and we've spoke before, like we've talked before, and so I know your story about being sort of obsessed and addicted to working out and fitness, and what did it do to you, right? What did this experience do? How did it affect you? What was like the motivator behind doing that, and how did going through that experience change you as a person?
I think I don't I don't I think a lot of it has to do with my mom being really, she was, I think, in her childhood, she enjoyed playing sports. I mean, she came from India and she moved to the US here with my dad. And even when she was in the US, she always sort of find things like fitness activities to keep her moving. That's how she would get through a day, to do the work. And, then when she had us children, just like how everyone, and like kind of managing the day-to-day schedule, that's what would keep her up on her toes. And I think as I would keep seeing her doing that, maybe, past the self-reflection, because all my older and my younger sibling did do those, it just maybe hit me, because I felt like, maybe if I do this, I might do this faster. You start to think about, if this person is doing it, this might have some effect on me. And it did. It did make me do things faster, but it didn't make me grasp what I knew better. So that was not because it was of the working out reason. It was because my mind, everyone thinks that if we read a book, we won't understand it, so we won't ever read it. And if they've read it for like 4 years and some major trauma happens, they never touch it. And it's not because that you doing that activity was the reason. It's because your mind will take past events and make it a ghost story for you, and kind of keep spinning it off just like that. And it doesn't happen with everyone. depends on person to person. But like with me, when I decided to go back to it, which I'm currently doing that, I wanted to balance it out. But some way or the other, it would go back to the previous events and kind of make those catastrophic moments. Like, you remember that? This is what happened. It just kept, you just spiral into other moments of truth. So
Wait a second, I'm confused. So you're saying that like you're trying to re-implement like fitness back into your life, but in like a more balanced way?
so yeah, from your question, you were asking that how has it helped you? I think it's
Yeah.
helped me, one, become more faster, one, become more more aware of my surroundings in that
Mhm.
area of high school. But when I left it, there were other complications. If you're not eating right, you're not sleeping right, then it kind of detriments the day, even if you drink like 8 glasses of water per day. And what started to happen was, when I even was doing meditation, it would keep bringing those events in. So it created a trauma in high school for me, where it's like, that was not the right decision. So because I've went from total putting fitness at like 80, from the 80% term to 20% of academia, to 80% of academia to that being 20%, which would never really happen. And now I've started realizing, ever since the pandemic, that you have to manage the 50 of personal and 50 of professional, because if you make it 80-20, things don't go right. So
It's all about balance.
and what I've noticed is that when I used to start it, even when the reason I wasn't doing work was because it was the mindset that was kind of making me go crazy. And sometimes because of that, I would miss a day or two of meditation.
Mhm.
So I'm now in this, what you call, journey of being uncomfortable again and revisiting previous memories, and trying to kind of stack the equation to like my personal activities plus my professional activities equals balance, to kind of make sure it's not too overcrowded. So I took the uncomfortable path by continuing by picking something by continuing some of the activities that I did during my VCU career from a professional side, and to continue doing that, and to not leave it, because I've had things which I've been good at and I've also left.
Mhm.
So some of the things I'm looking to pick back, I've kind of put that on the hold. But personal wise, one was to continue the meditation and everything that I'm doing, but the major thing was picking up the working out, and reconnecting with some of the old previous connections personally, and trying to create a better relationship than I did that time. Because when you're in a moment of stress that you can't think right, you say things that you didn't think you really meant, and so it causes an effect on that relationship at that time. And if you don't end up healing it, they live with that notion that he meant it that way, and he was real. But
Yeah.
when you decide to fix it, it can kind of turn a notch. So this November, I think ever since, I don't know if you've heard of the festival of Diwali, but it's called the Festival of Lights, that happened. I'm really bad with dates. It happened on November 4th, and that whole week was dedicated to it. It's based on a mythology in India called Ramayana, and
Oh, beautiful.
they basically, one of the gods beat one of the demons, and it was a huge deal. And so that was when when he came back to his town called Arodhya, it was a huge celebration. And ever since that week has passed, a lot of things have trickled in, which have made me sort of think that if I want to achieve, at least start by achieving that dream or goal, because now I'm done with my academia and I'm now able to focus, then I'm gonna have to start doing this. So it's been just like how people like to call it Movember with like the mustache related to it. That's one of the reasons I'm growing it out, to kind of show like a much more matured version of myself. So
Yeah, I think that's
you know,
such a big part of everybody's recovery is
yep,
having to go through that sort of rebirth where we accept the past version, make amends for the things that that past version of ourselves did, re-engage in our connections or let some people go and make new connections, right? Figure
yep.
out who we are now and get grounded in that new energy of our new self, and then be able to move forward as that new, more mature version. Um, let's see, who has been the biggest supports along your journey?
And is this supposed to, this biggest support, can it be like a platform, or does it have to be like a person?
Um, I guess I was thinking more like a person, but it could definitely be a platform. I think like YouTube was probably one of my biggest supports, like watching
Oh, yeah.
coaches and gurus and
Yeah.
speakers right on YouTube was one of my biggest supports. So yeah, it could definitely be a platform.
Um, I guess the platform wise for me, it would be LinkedIn. Why? Because it helped to show a more, it helped me to because the types of dreams and goals that I was chasing against, one feels extremely impossible because that industry is at a very different level. And in order to get there, you would have to know people in that area. And I never knew what type of platform would you get to know those types of people, because if you try to connect with them on Facebook or Instagram, that's a totally different story. You know, they're never going to respond to you. So, and I tried and it failed, but I eventually, when I was in college, they would keep mentioning LinkedIn and it never clicked to me. And a bit somewhere down the line, when I started my fall 2019 semester, just like the which is usually between, it starts around September, end of August, and goes all the way to around December. And that was in 2019, just before everything COVID kind of hit its peak. I started learning, I started learning the basics of it, because I had a couple of professor mentors who were helping me and said that this might be a good time for you to start it in your second year. And I think in the pandemic, which it was good and bad in many ways, but in this perspective, it gave me time to learn what it really was and to see what I could do more with it. And from that, it started to make me realize that this platform can, one, literally help you get to where you want, because it's basically a professional platform with all the people from all industries. So that is one thing that has changed me. And I mean, even if it doesn't get me there, but at least gets half of it accomplished, that's more than enough, you know, or even like 25%. So, but person wise, I think it was it was my mom in the beginning for my whole academic career. But now it's starting to be my dad, because I've started seeing him change in the pandemic as well. Not that he was a bad person in the beginning, but um, I never knew him as I did at that time.
Mm.
So, and I mean, it's right now like starting ground, but understanding his perspective, I always used to be like, you know, he's saying it from that viewpoint. But when you really sit down with the person and kind of get to hear who, you know, where they're coming from, you then start to connect the dots, that how did this person, one meet my mom, and then second, kind of, you know, how he works in that particular fashion. So it's right now it's like changing moments at this time. I mean, I'm pretty sure 2022 is also going to be like that. And that was saying,
Yeah.
I don't, there have been years, or well, I don't think I would want to say years. I usually have like month phases when there is no change, because before that I was changing a lot. But I think ever since August to October, I wasn't changing because a lot of uh, I was hitting a lot of milestones. So it was like accomplishment season. And now it's like it's now restarted again with like new, bigger challenges being presented. And I could say somewhere around even end of June, it was in that rhythm because I was used to the things I was doing that were more just work, 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 work. So, yep.
Super cool. So it sounds like your dad has stepped in and is kind of helping you piece together like some maybe where there were some missing pieces in like your family story and things like that. So you can feel more of like a whole person as you move forward. So awesome. I remember those moments for myself as well that were really vital in my full healing journey where you get to figure out who are these people really, you know, as adults, right? Man to man or woman to woman, kind of re-meeting your parents from a new viewpoint as the right as the new mature version of yourself to meet them
Yeah.
in that new mindset where you can see things differently.
Right.
So
Because you
definitely.
usually when you're kids, a lot of the times you see your moms around the house, so you understand their story very quickly because you kind of get to know them more personally on a better level. That because usually the dad's out doing the work, and this was the same way, um, just like how 90s stories would be. You know, the moms would take care of the children, and they would also do their work or any side passions they would have, and the dad would be out there earning the bucks. So I had gotten to know my mom's side of the story for a very long time. And so, you know, she helped me as much as I could. She helped me get through the obstacles that I lagged in. I mean, my dad would pitch in some of the areas, but it wasn't like I really got to know him. It was not only until I started to see small hints in September and a little bit in October, but it really hit after the week of Diwali when I started seeing major hints from him. And yeah, we'll see how. I mean, this is like what I think it's week two, three, week two. So in a week two of understanding someone a little bit better.
I love that. So, do you have any favorite quotes, sayings, mantras, or mottos that you use to kind of get you through a tough moment?
Yeah. When was this? I don't know because there are months which I've really fairly remember really well, and there are months that which were like mostly just working towards something and just normal months as they always are. But don't know if it was this year, if it was last year in November, December, but there was a period where that whole month I was literally watching motivational speeches. I mean, not that I didn't know of any, but a lot of them didn't. They would always be like small quotes from from either a film, a fable, or a story. But it wasn't like a real, authentic, full-fledged speech where I could like go to and I could motivate myself if it was a really bad day or whatever it is. And quote wise, I'm not sure if you've seen the film The Pursuit of Happiness, but so there's a dialogue where Will Smith is telling his son Jaden Smith that people are going to tell you that you can't do something when they don't have the courage to do that thing that they don't even know what you want to do. So go chase your dreams, but know that you're also going to be falling heads down to go towards that. So that relates very like I can once see myself relating to that very well because I'm in that type of zone because I have big things that I'm looking to accomplish in life. But that's one of them. Second, there's a commencement speech that Denzel Washington gave at the University of Pennsylvania, and in there he said he, his simple quote was fall forward and hit your head so that you can at least see where you're walking so you can know what path to take from there. Because he was saying it from the perspective that a lot of us are engineers, doctors, this, and we don't know where we're going to go, but we're going to find our path. We're going to learn, and we're going to get to that eventual point. Because he said, and this is from my interpretation, that reason he said fall forward is because the hitting the head makes sense. When you hit your head and it hurts, then you know that you won't go do that again. You won't repeat that mistake again. But when you fall back, those are the ones you call the couch potatoes, from my vision, because you have a base that protects you. There's no injury. Unless there's no injury or wound, it doesn't really put a dent on you. So that was like, from what I could understand, I just put a little bit of my own spin to it and just look at it from that viewpoint. But I'm trying to think, is there anything?
So like the pain helps you to determine if you are not on your correct pathway, right?
Yep. There's another two, but I'm trying to think if there was anything else that, and I mean, I'm not going to get into how he became, an actor, but Denzel, I don't know if you know about this fact, but before he became an actor and before he decided to go on there, he didn't actually know he was going to be an actor, because he actually just went to a local stage, and they were just looking for just random talent. It was just like a regular event, just like any other one, not for like professional actors. And he was just acting it out. And one of the people said that you did a really good job doing that. And that was his second clue. But his first clue came when he got at the University of Pennsylvania. He started with, I think, a science degree, and he kept changing majors. And after no academic focus, they told him that, you probably should, you should probably, take a break, and we'll think about if we decide to take you, because if you keep changing, the university, one, doesn't think you're focused, and they then have to reevaluate that was he a good decision or not, And his mother had a beauty parlor shop. I don't remember what the location was, but there was a wise person who came in the shop that day and just kept staring at her, just at him all the time. And she said that you're gonna talk to millions of people around the world. And he didn't know, he thought that he was gonna go back to school, but he didn't know that millions of people in the world, those millions people, the million people around the world would be through his movies. And he said, a lot of the times you think that you're gonna go in this career path, and a lot of the times people make fun that he can't be focused enough to figure out his passion, that someone goes from the total bottom to the extreme top. This happened with Elon Musk. This happens with so many other people that we don't even see. But that was just something which I feel the fall forward for him to realize that took a very long time. So going to that, the one other quote that I really sticks with me is Matthew McConaughey. Everyone knows who Matthew McConaughey is, but when he won his Oscar for Dallas Buyer Clubs, he said that I mean, this is his imaginary person that he's thinking, but he says every 7 or 8 years, he'll have a person say that, who's your hero? And he said, and he'll say, I'm my hero, but I don't even know if I'm my hero yet. And he said maybe the next 7 years. And the next 7, 8, 10, he said, I'm never going to be my hero because I'm always improving. And that is something which you have to do continuously in order to find a better vision. Even when he had the big highlights from 2011 to 2015, and people still know him for who he is, even even after his new book, the Green Light, which has come out, everyone is trying to be their own hero to figure out where they want to go next. And same with in everyone's story, like they all start small. I mean, who was it? Dwayne Johnson had $7 in his pocket after he didn't get drafted into the NFL, and from there he found out he wanted to do wrestling. So, and he still says not going to the NFL was the best thing that happened. So, a lot of those quotes really resonate with me. And I mean, right now, I don't know if you've heard, but Will Smith's new book based on what he's had to go through, and him telling his story of the traumas he's had to experience and whatnot. He mentioned specifically that with his dad being a military background and him trying to find his art, it's always been hard for him to express himself that way. And it took him experience to learn that we all go through several phases of emotion, through several stages, which we can't predict. We all want to be future predictors, but we can't. So that's also something which resonates with some of my siblings who tend to future predict all the time, because your future is only based on what you do in your present. That's the basic equation, and that's what I. So yeah.
Yeah, man. I love what you said there, that you said, in everyone's story, they all start small. That's so true. And every single great story. Oh, well, maybe not Kylie Jenner, but I think the rest of them started small. But so that's so true. And it's so encouraging to remember that anybody that we can look at and see as great in some way, shape, or form, where that's like success, what you do in the world, financially, whatever, like everybody had to start somewhere. And it's just as possible for any of us to make it to like our highest height as it is for them. So where are you going from here? What is next for Himanish? What are your goals for? What is the highest version of Himanish?
Well, right now, since I'm going through several changes, I guess the next version, I feel like this is like version 20. Every birthday that I have, whenever I turn the next age, I'm right now in version 20. And every year when I go, it's always another new version that has its own kinks and features of it. Some of them take previous attributes from versions that were helpful, and some of them, they just evolve from there. But I guess from version 21 that I'm living to version 22, I'm trying to figure out what's the best way to say this. Being able to manage the 50-50 increment, because I've been on the trajectory of 80-20, and kind of doing it in a way where I'm not destroying personal connections and I'm not destroying my path on the professional side, but giving time to both areas. And right now there have been some failures with that, but yeah. I'm kind of just trying to, because as much as I used to think that everyone would be basing everything on like schedules, that they would write it all down and they'd get it all done. But really it's all about doing the work and having to prioritize it, And I mean, obviously the things that are more important, that comes naturally, but the things that are needed to do and that you keep delaying, giving time to those as well, because they're necessary for you.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of prioritizing the things that I've been delaying instead of like the important tasks that are at my work, or the things that I need to do, like how we all get ready, or do the everyone has their own religion, spirituals, from like Christianity, Buddhism, and Hinduism. So kind of, there have been several books that I've started halfway and not finished, like those. There have been some of the skill sets that I've needed to do in order to build my portfolio that I need for the dream I'm trying to chase. Having to make sure that I don't go overboard with the whole workout regimen, because I know once I go overboard with it, I lose control, and not, kind of making sure I stay within a certain amount of days, where some days are no days and some days are the other days. And it's not for the gains, but it's more towards just to help me do things faster, looking at things from a different point of view. So that, I think that's what version 22 is going to be, where I'm managing it all out, but also trying to learn those skills so that I can get towards those opportunities as well. And I'm also trying, I think the whole September and October, I had a bunch of career paths that I wanted to do, to go like, I want to do this. But when you pick 10 different things and you don't focus on one, you don't become good in it. It's a basic fact. So that's, just kind of sticking to one thing and going towards that.
I'm laughing because I understand you on such a deep level, because that's literally who I am as a person. Like, I have 3 computer screens that always have like 20 tabs open of all the different things, because I'm always like wanting to do. I have, sometimes it's like a blessing and a curse to be really motivated, right? Because I have like 20 million dreams and I want them to all happen right now. And I think that like I should be able to simultaneously work on them all at once. But
Right.
And that's so it's funny. I think you and I are right in alignment with each other right now, because I'm doing sort of the same thing, just working on balance, working on like honing in on doing one thing and getting really good at it, finishing things to completion, and nurturing myself and my soul and my emotional body and my connections first and foremost. So I'm right there with you, brother. Any final words? If you could say just one thing in just a handful of words to the people out there that feel like you.
Yeah, I think for the folks that, there are categories of high achievers. There are categories for folks that just want to live a normal day-to-day life and have those normal expectations and fulfill the duties of being an adult. And there are folks that don't know what they're doing and why they're doing it. For anyone in any stage, your answers, the problems you're facing now, they're not going to resolve the next day. So there's no point stressing about them at this point. And I've learned this because I've had folks that I've seen them go do that every single time. And it's been really, when I'm having to decide, there is a bit of stress, but I'm not letting it out on other people. I'm keeping it to myself and managing it. So instead of having to have other people around you that are supporting you in this journey bring you down because you're always being frustrated, just go with it. Because Monday, if the problem started on Monday, it's not going to get resolved on Tuesday. It's not going to get resolved on Wednesday. It's like, I like to look at every challenge, problem, opportunity, success. It's like cooking a dish. If you undercook it, we realize it. If you overcook it, it's burnt. If you wanted to cook at the right temperature, you have to let it do its thing. If you think this is just a simple dish, if you think you're going to make pasta and you're just going to do it within 5 minutes, there's going to be either the pasta's going to be cold or the sauce is going to be cold or something's not going to taste right. And sometimes that happens. We undercook things, we overcook things, but there's some things which we just can't over or undercook because they need to be perfectly heated at the right temperature. So let it go through it, because then think of it as it becomes a story for you to tell. That's what everyone wants to hear. Like, I didn't even know, like, and the fun fact is, yeah, Will Smith said that when he had everyone knows about his show, The Fresh Prince of Bel Air, The Fresh Prince of Bel Air, which I have not watched, so do not criticize me on that. But he said that when he won all the Grammy, won 2 back-to-back Grammys and whatnot, all of a sudden, I think he had to do something with taxes before he got the show. They took his house, they took his income, and I think he was in jail. And he's like, he was saying that what had just happened. You know, he didn't know what was happening, and when he got out, he didn't know what to expect. And that Fresh Prince title gave him something different, where it said, let's push you into acting. And I mean, he did continue singing, which I didn't know about that as well. But yeah, you know, you
Yeah,
don't
Big
know.
Willie style, get jiggy with it. I'm from that era. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm older than you
Yeah.
think I am, probably.
Yeah, I actually found when I saw I don't know, either it was Big Willie style that was his first solo album, but my dad had his album and it was in this crate, and I was like, are you sure he was singing? I mean, I thought someone just pasted it in there and just like a meme or whatever. But then I searched it up that day, and I was like 13, and I was like, what the hell? I was like, he actually used to sing, and
You make
I
me
mean,
feel
he doesn't.
ancient.
But now I don't think he sings as anymore. But yeah, but
So funny.
he used to sing.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So this has been such a pleasure. It's been so fun. If people want to follow you, hook up with you, talk to you on LinkedIn, how can they get in contact?
Yeah, they can. They can find me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on there. They can find me on Reddit. I'm also on there as well, and I'm also on Instagram as well. But I think trying to remember if I mean, I'm on Facebook, but I'm not really as active on Instagram or Facebook. But on Instagram, I also have I used to do it, but there was this photography page that I have of my own that I used to keep posting, and it was doing when I was in BCU in person. It was like a 1.5 year project that I took on just to explore the world of photography. And so that's some things that if that's some for more content, if they want to see things of that sort, they can take a look at that. So, but I think you're muted.
Oh, thank you so much for being on the show. And this has been From Rock Bottom to Badass. I will put all of those links for how you can find Himanish in the show notes.
Good.